Great. Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining today. Would love to just kick things off. First, we're going to be talking about how to conduct an SEO audit on Semrush specifically. And just to give you a little background on myself, I've done a number of these trainings with Start Out before, but in case you haven't met me before, nice to meet you. I'm based in Austin. I'm the founder of a growth marketing agency, Rex Marketing, and I'll give you kind of a brief rundown of that. Also was the founder of an ed tech company, exited in 2021, focused in the areas of growth and SEO specifically. Come from the healthcare and education space, and as I said, currently the co-founder of Rex Marketing. Um, just to give a little background on what we do first, we work exclusively with early stage startups, especially those in the healthcare space. Actually, a pretty strong niche in the mental health care space as well. Focus in the areas of SEO, content marketing and strategy, web design and development, marketing ops, automations. Ed can really work with budgets of all sizes, especially considering we work with early stage companies. So, if anything that's of interest, definitely feel free to reach out post this presentation. But um, really, today is going to be more of a walkthrough and kind of going through it and showing you step by step how to conduct an SEO audit. So not a lot of content will be like in these slides, as I said, but we'll go ahead and just jump in um, and go through an SEO audit. So here, let me pull this up here. So as an example, I actually used StartOut's website, just so that it's not showing any client data or client information. Uh, Let me see here. Cool. And so just to speak briefly as I pull this up about Semrush and different SEO tools, Semrush is just one tool out there on the market that you can use for tracking, monitoring, conducting SEO audits for your website. There's Ahrefs, which you may have heard of. There's Screaming Frog. There's a number of tools out there on the market. We utilize Semrush at our agency. Truthfully, I'd say that Semrush or Ahrefs, they're really the gold standards, in my opinion, for tools that are on the market. So anyway, I'd say that that's why we're kind of going to the walkthrough on Semrush today. Depending on what tool you're using, whatever software you end up choosing to go with, they're each going to have similar functions and tools that SEMrush has. So even if, this isn't a one-to-one with your tool or your software that you're using for your company, this will at least give you an idea of how to think about conducting an SEO audit for your website, um, and what steps to go through, etc. So, um, just to jump in here, so before our presentation today, I went ahead and just conducted a audit slash pulling data for Startout specifically, so we can take a look at their SEO performance, what I would look for when conducting an audit of a website, and go from there. But first, we'll look at the site audit. So any tool that's out there on the market is going to have this functionality. What a site audit is it's going to go through and crawl and scan your website and find issues, errors, things that need to be addressed from an SEO perspective. Um, so we will jump into their audit. Um, So whatever tool you're using, it's going to generally it's going to give you a site health score or an SEO score. They're going to have their own terminology for what it is within their software, but this is pretty standard across the board. I'd say just for context, because sometimes people get confused. This is not actually a number. Whatever number is provided in SEMrush, Ahrefs, any of these other tools, this is not a number that's given by Google. This is a number that they've created with their own systems and algorithms within their software that gives you an idea of where you fall in terms of site health. Um, Sometimes whenever we look at these, people will ask, oh, like, is this something that Google's reporting on? And that's not the case. This is a percentage that or a score that's given by the software you're using, based off of what they found in their audit. Um, this too, just to call out, this is a new tool that's introduced by Semrush. I can't speak to what other tools out there have this same functionality, but they also give you an AI search health, which is very uh, similar concept. It's not a metric that's pulled from any sort of software or location elsewhere. This is a number that they're giving you based off of what they've determined to be right or wrong about your website. So first, just to look at this breakdown here. So when I first conduct an audit, site audit is the site audit functionality to get a site health score is the first step I take with a new client when we're looking at their website. They break things up into errors, warnings, and notices. So it's pretty straightforward, but errors are the more critical things to take care of. Warnings are things that you should take a look at, potentially address. And then notices are, I'd say, like lower priority things that potentially are issues you might want to take a look at, but they're lower on the totem pole in terms of issues or things to address. So what we'll do is we'll click into first errors. So and also too, I'm not going to rip apart start out or their website. Just going to talk about the data that we found here. But here are some of the errors that have been addressed. Truthfully, too, for context, this isn't a large amount of errors for a website. Startout's site is actually in a pretty good place in terms of errors for a website of their size. You'll see here that it's going to classify these issues as errors because there are higher priority things that should be addressed. We're not going to talk through every item because, you know, that's it. Each of these items is going to have a different use case, a different way to fix it, and it'll take, beyond our hour to talk about all of this. But you'll see here things that are generally called out in the errors are like things like broken links, 4xx status codes, pages that couldn't be crawled, duplicate meta descriptions, so on and so forth. Um, and these are things that I always say that with errors, these are things that are hurting your SEO performance. These are things that you should address, should take care of. And again, with Semrush, the way that they function is they will also have this why and how to fix it that comes up. They'll kind of give you a breakdown, especially if you're newer to SEO or you're just getting into this and just starting to prioritize this. They'll explain the issue and they'll explain how to fix it. Um, when you click into these errors too, it will give you more details on where the links are located, where they're broken, what the status code is that's being shown. Um, so it gives you a further detail into this, explains how to fix it, um, etc. So, and then just to briefly talk about warnings, you'll see here there's a large number of warnings here. I'd say whenever you're conducting an audit like this on your own website, um, don't take warnings as how I mentioned earlier. These aren't necessarily hurting your SEO performance. In my experience of doing this for years, there's some of these items that are lower priority, won't have a large negative impact on your SEO performance. Ideally, I mean, you wouldn't want anything to show, but for some of these things, it's on a case by case basis um, of of if it should be addressed or not. So you'll see here some of these things are again meta descriptions, word counts, pages leading to insecure links, um, H1 heading, so page structure items. And as I was describing earlier, you can click on these things, how to fix it, explains it, and gives you kind of directions on what to do. And then again, clicking into these issues will then give you the breakdown of where the resource is, if it should be like for example, this one, should it be minified, should it not? And you can kind of delve a bit deeper into the site health. So um, again, this is kind of the first step when I'm conducting an SEO audit. I'm going to go kind of understand the site health of the website, understand what issues and errors, warnings, notices there are, and figure out what needs to be addressed or fixed. Um, I would say that as I kind of walked through, I'd prioritize these items, go through and review these items, and address things as depending on how important it is to your site performance, how much volume of issues there are, etc. And then notices I'd say are more things to give you an idea, just to brief about them, speak about them briefly. Um, Orphan pages and sitemaps, only one incoming internal link. Like I'd say with notices, these are things that obviously they're not ideal scenario. Like you'd like to have more than one incoming internal link to a page from an SEO perspective and optimization perspective. Is that negatively going to impact your website? No. But if you want to fully optimize and further improve your potential web performance and your organic performance, you'd want to come through and address these as well. Uh, so hopefully that makes sense. But that's like the first step when it comes to an SEO audit. Um, Now, next thing that I would look at. So again, with any tool in here, you're going to look at, they're going to have some sort of tool that tracks the position for keywords. I don't have access or admin access to Google Search Console or Google Analytics for Start Out, since I'm not part of the company. But with these tools, you typically can tie these in and integrate them with your Google Search Console and your Google Analytics tools, so that you can get better data and see like what you're actually ranking for. Just for this test, I just added some keywords that were recommended by Semrush to add for tracking um, for us to take a look at. But we'll jump in and look at position tracking. So when you look at position tracking, this is going to help you get a sense of how is your website currently ranking if it is. So you'll see here there's going to be a breakdown of uh, keywords that you're ranking in the top 100 for, top 20, top 10, top 5. So uh, when you're doing an audit of your website, you're going to want to see, I'm going to go to the overview here. It's then going to break out the keywords I have here uh, that we're ranking for and what their positions are, and can also show these over time. So again, as I'm conducting an audit, I want to understand what am I ranking for currently, if anything, and where, like, if I'm not, what do I want to be ranking for? So, for example, like if you're hoping to be ranking for HR software for startup or whatever your company is, you're going to hopefully want to see those keywords in some sort of rankings here. But if not, that's going to help you identify opportunities to further optimize your pages, further optimize and create content around those keywords, etc. And thing to call out too, just for uh, context, if you're new to this, something to keep in mind is keyword difficulty. So as you're looking for opportunities to improve your ranking or even understanding how you're currently ranking, keyword difficulty is a metric that's assigned by the software, so assigned by Semrush in this case, that describes how difficult it would be to rank for this specific keyword. So you'll see here that Startout's website is currently ranking first for LGBT company, and the keyword difficulty is 72, which is a highly difficult keyword to be ranking for, which is great. Uh, that's a great place to be if people are searching for that. Um, Similar here, you'll see that if there's other things that they're ranking for with like a lower keyword difficulty, um, it'll like have like a low one. That's like the lowest of the scale. So this can also help. One thing that I think about when I look at these rankings, say for example, like entrepreneur mentorship programs. That's probably highly relevant to start out as a brand. They're currently ranking 15, which would mean that they're not on the first page of Google for this keyword search. And this is speaking to like any sort of keyword for any type of company. If you were wanting to, if like this keyword you're currently ranking for is, not on the first page, we'll then want to strategize on, first off, what is the page that's ranking? You'll see here that it'll show the URL that's ranking for that keyword. So it looks like the startout.org's backslash mentors page is the one that's ranking for that keyword. What would we, what can we do to that page to improve the ranking for those keywords, so we can drive our ranking from 15 up to 10, 5, to one, ultimately getting to the top of Google search results. But that's how you want to think about keyword positioning when you're conducting an audit for your website, is understanding what are we ranking for currently that's high, what are we not ranking for, and what are we ranking for that's lower that we can find ways to improve to bring those rankings higher in Google search results. Um, so that's like I'd say like overall what I pull from position tracking when it comes to looking at a website for the first time and analyzing your own website. We'll now jump in and look at your next thing we'll look at is your backlinks. So, uh, just to speak a bit about backlinks and off-page SEO, in case you're not familiar, backlinks relate to your off-page SEO performance. Your off-page SEO performance, I like to describe is things that happen off of your domain or off of your website that impact your SEO performance or your organic performance. So, your backlinks, these are links on other places on the internet that direct back to your website or your domain. So you'll see here that one thing that is highly impacted by your uh, backlink profile is your authority score. This is also sometimes called your domain authority, your authority score. There's a number of terms for this, but this is basically a number that determines how strong your domain is in comparison to others on the internet. So, um, you'll see here, and sorry, one other thing to call out is that your authority score, this is a metric that's given by the software conducting the score calculation. So you might come to Semrush and get a 30. You might go to Ahrefs and get a 29. There shouldn't be large discrepancies between tools on the whatever tool you're using. They're all going to most likely fall pretty similar to one another, but this isn't a number that's pulled by Google or being calculated by Google, so to speak. They are doing these calculations in their own algorithms in the back end, but behind closed doors. So these are basically this number, whatever software you're using is calculated by that software. So you'll see here that with SEMrush, they're looking at your link power, your organic traffic you're driving, and the natural profile of your backlinks. So whenever I come through for a website, if I just want to look at and analyze our backlink portfolio and our backlink profile, I'm going to look at first off the number of referring domains and understand basically how does this profile look? How are we generating new referring domains? And also, too, if you want to get some sort of understanding, what may have caused a spike in referring domains. So, this is looking at data for the past year. You'll see you'll see here that start out as a domain had a large spike in referring domains um, in October. So this is like, if I was working with an external client, I'd probably approach them and say, "Hey, we see that, your referring domains increased significantly in October. Is there any sort of actions or activity that took place that could have influenced that?" Um, if that's the case, is that something that we should look at doing more often? Is the launch of a new product? Is it some sort of backlink strategy that you implemented in October? Basically trying to get some understanding of what's going on. Seeing this type of growth is what you'd want to see. So we'd want to find understanding of what happened here to cause this large spike, and can we replicate it and continue that? You'll see here as we look into November, it looks like the number has dropped a bit. But we'd want to get like an understanding from the client or, understanding for your own website what caused this spike. You'll see here too, looking at backlinks. There has been a dip in backlinks over the past year. So that's something that we definitely want to keep an eye on and understand what happened in this scenario as well. So you'll see here we can actually pull the data within SEMrush to get some better understanding, but also understanding like for your company or talking to the client, what could have happened to cause this drop. But You'll see here too, getting an understanding of anchors on the internet that are linking to you. So basically, what text is on the internet that's linking to your website. This is helpful to understand too and make sure that it's relevant to your website and relevant to your brand. But let's take a look at first, I'll look at new and lost backlinks. So you'll see here whenever you jump into backlinks within Semrush, you can get a sense of, first off, looking, seeing what's new. So it'll tell you when the new link was first seen. So you'll see here that these are new backlinks that have been generated in, October 28th. Um, these were generated on just 2 days ago. These are 10 days ago. And you can see what the page is that's linking to it. So you'll see here there's on Cornell, they've added some backlinks to start out. Um, You'll also see here, it'll call out if a link's been removed. So the link was new on October 26th, then it was removed 11 days ago. So this is something to keep in mind and understand. And for example, if you saw that a link was removed that you don't think should have been, maybe it's a partner you work with or a brand or a client or something along those lines, maybe that would inform you like we should reach out to that brand, we should reach out to that website and ask them to reinstate the link or add the link again, or understand what happened, why was the link lost, and try to regain that backlink um, as to keep your volume up. We'll also look at we'll filter by lost. So we'll see here, these are ones that have been lost. It'll actually call out when it was seen, like when it was first scraped, and then also look at when it was last seen. Um, You'll see here, this could be an indicator to get an understanding of if maybe a partner removed your link, if should reach back out to them. Did they restructure their website? Did they update their blog content? This will help you get some sort of understanding, like if your backlinks have dropped, get an understanding of why they may have, and if you could look at regaining those backlinks that you've lost over time. But those are the main things I'd say to call out from like looking at new and lost. Another just important thing to mention is understanding your follow versus no follow links. So if we're looking at follow links, these are the way I like to describe them. And if you're not familiar with follow versus no follow, follow links are links that actually I'd say have a bigger impact on your organic performance. You're ideally going to want to generate more do follow links than no follow links. Do follow links basically share, I'd like to say like SEO juice, so to speak, between the two domains of where one's linking from and where it's linking to. It's also an indicator to Google that you trust the website that you're linking to. So if you were to, for example, put a no follow link on your website, that's signaling to Google, hey, this is a link that I'm including on the website, but do not follow it beyond my website. Don't pass over basically any sort. Don't let crawlers continue through and crawl to that website. So that's what a no follow link is. So you'd want to get a sense of like if the links you're generating are no follow versus do follow, um, and etc. So that's how we would look at backlinks overall. Now let's look at toxicity score. So this is actually something that um, people often overlook and don't think about. When it comes to toxicity score, I'd say if you ever get like those spam emails of, hey, I'll help you generate 100 backlinks for $100, or those sort of offers you find online or through your email, always avoid those because whenever you purchase backlinks for your domain, it can actually hurt your SEO performance overall by creating a toxic backlink profile. So you'll see here that, um, again, this is what's been scored and determined by Semrush. So this is not pulled by Google necessarily, but they're going to call out what your toxic domains are that have backlinks to your website. and ones that are potentially toxic. So if we were to click into this, you'll see here it's going to call out links that are backlinks that you have, and their toxicity score. So that's what TS here uh, means, toxicity score. So you'll see here that it will call out why this is potentially dangerous, why is it potentially going to hurt your SEO performance, and then you could either mark them as whitelist so that, oh, it's fine, this is, a partner, maybe it's, incorrectly being flagged as toxic by a Semrush. You can mark it as good. You can add to your remove list, which would be your disavow list. Your disavow list is something that you actually submit through Google Search Console. So if say you were to go through these links, build a list of backlinks and domains that you don't want to be considered backlinks for your website any longer, you would want to add them to a remove list. It's going to build that list for you. You'd submit that through Google Search Console. It's then going to go through and uh, basically, for lack of better words, like disconnect the backlink from your domain. Um, uh, so you have the option of like your remove list, your disavow list, and that's what the process would be for these toxic backlinks or toxic domains. Um, Cool. So that's basically how I would look at backlinks and analyzing those for a new website. So let us um, look at looking at organic traffic. So this is, again, like I said, I don't have access to start out's Google Analytics or Google Search Console. So this is just data that's being pulled by SEMrush from their own data. It's not going to be as accurate as if you were to link your own Google Analytics data, but also going to look at our traffic analytics as a next step. So ideally, I mean, if your SEO and your organic strategy is working, and you'd like to be seeing your visits increasing, your unique visitors increasing, etc. So we will see here that within our traffic trends, if I was to, again, work with Start Out and like to be wanting to understand like how is the website performing, I see here that there was a big drop in performance from May to June. Again, this is data being pulled from SEMrush, so it doesn't necessarily mean this is fully accurate. The only way you can get these accurate numbers is from Google Analytics, or whatever other analytic tool that you have implemented on the website. But this is more like a generalized uh, prediction that SEMrush is pulling based off of the data they have. So you'll see here that visits have been decreasing according to this data. It's something to be mindful of. I'd say that if I was doing an audit, I'd say something that we've been doing from an SEO perspective is not working, or some negative things have happened over the past year that we'd want to look to improve or change in terms of SEO strategy if SEO is one of your priorities. Um, can look at unique visitors. You see that here that the lines are pretty similar. This data would be more insightful if it was actually pulled from Google Analytics, like for your own website. You'll see here page visits or pages per visit. This is an important metric to have a handle on. You ideally want to have people clicking around and viewing other areas of your website once they land on your page. That's an indication to Google that you have uh, educational, high value content on your website that people are interested in exploring. If you saw that your pages per visit was one or close to one, that would indicate that to Google anyway that you don't have as much content. It's not as high value. People aren't interested in exploring the website, so you'd want to get this number up. Ideally, one would be the lowest. Obviously, if someone viewed one page and left, that's the lowest they could have. But if you were able to increase that to five, 10, beyond, that's what you'd want to be doing. Um, that relates to also average visit duration. So you'll see here they're calculating that from their data, the average visit duration is 10, 5, etc. This is another metric that you want to have a handle on to understand, how long are people staying on your website. Very similar to how I was talking about pages per visit. Having a longer duration per visit indicates to Google that your content is high value, people are finding it insightful and are staying on the page for longer. If you saw that your average duration was low, that is a signal that it could be a low quality website to Google and when they're determining search performance and search rankings. Um, which also relates to bounce rate. Bounce rate, if you're not familiar, is what percent of people bounce from the page as soon as they land there. So you'd want to try to drive that number down to encourage people to stay on the website and bounce less often. So all of these metrics have a play and a role in your SEO performance. And again, as you're auditing and reviewing your own website, these are things that you want to get a handle on and understand um, in order to be able to figure out how to improve your performance and improve your organic rankings. Um, and I believe I had one other item I wanted us to look at within. Let me see here. Yes, so I wanted us to look at your on-page SEO checker. I think this is a really powerful tool. Um, again, this feature might not be in the tool you're using, but can be super helpful as you're thinking about strategy and how to move forward from your SEO from an SEO perspective. It's going to actually go through and crawl your website and find pages that they find opportunities to optimize them. So, for example, we'll look at the demo day event page for start out. You'll see here that it's determined to generate a good amount of volume, and they have 5 ideas on how to improve it. You'll see here it's going to help determine what's good about the page so far, and what needs to change for to potentially improve performance. Now, I'd say that their algorithms and automated tools and crawlers in the back end are determining this. It's not always the case that, you need to do everything they say here, or honestly, too, sometimes the things they recommend are not, don't take it as like gold. I'd say take it as a guide, and if there's opportunity here, find ways to implement it. If there's not, you can ignore it and move forward. So you'll see here that there are recommendations of using targeted keywords more often in the body tag and the meta tags, introducing video content, etc. But what I love about this tool is that when you're conducting an audit, you'll be able to see which pages could potentially drive the biggest impact if you were to improve them. Um, Enriching page content, driving more backlinks. And what I love about Semrush too, and not trying to sell it by any means, but they also explain just like how difficult this would be. I really think that what they do well is that if you're new to SEO or you're just trying to self-manage this as a founder or a small scrappy team, it's going to help you understand like what do I have time for? What should I prioritize? How difficult is this? Also explaining why should you do this? So I just find it very helpful, especially if you're just getting started and just trying to prioritize this for your website. Um, but I think this is a really great tool for people who are starting to prioritize their website. Um, and so that's kind of the main elements I wanted to pull across from SEMrush specifically. I do want to briefly talk about it's not SEMrush, but it is something else that I do when I conduct an audit. Um, We're going to look at page speed insights for a website. So, so if you have Google Search Console set up and you're driving meaningful volume, you're going to have core web vital reports that are pulled from into your Google Search Console. Those are insightful and can provide some great data. Again, like I said, I don't have Google Search Console set up, or like I don't have access to that for start out, so I can't show those items for this example. But page speed insights can also be a helpful tool to understand how is your website performing from a technical perspective. So I'm going to do a quick analysis of start out. So once you do this report, it's going to tell you if you're passing core web vitals, also for your mobile or desktop version. So we'll look at mobile first and we'll talk about desktop. But you'll see here when it comes to core web vitals, you want to make sure that you're passing all these metrics they have outlined here. LCP, CLS, FCP. Um, these are all important metrics that determine how technically the site is. Looks like it's here we go. It's loaded up some performance issues. You'll see here that it's actually calling out a number of performance issues, accessibility, SEO, things that it's crawling for. We're passing that, and then some best practices, which we'll look at. But let's just start from the bottom and we'll work our way up. What I'm looking at is okay. From an SEO perspective, the mobile page is performing well. And whenever I do these, I usually just do the homepage to understand how things are performing because homepage is usually the densest and heaviest given content wise and like media wise. So looking at best practices, we see that there have some errors that have been logged. Again, I find this super helpful because it's going to actually call out what happened, gives you the description of what the issue is. And if you wanted to learn how to address it yourself, you can click here and it's going to pull you to a help doc to try to help you explain. Now, it's going to give you an explanation. It's not going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to do this. So if you're less technical in nature, it might be a bit above your head, but at the very least, it's giving you a direction that you could find someone to help you with and help address. But best practices relate to um, items that should be fixed from like if you wanted to follow all best practices. Um, Now, accessibility, that relates to having making sure that your website is accessible for all individuals, regardless of disability. So, imagine someone who has a visual impairment. How would the website perform for them? How would it, is it following best practices? Anybody who has like like color blindness, for example, is there enough differentiation between colors on the page? So on and so forth. So ideally, you'd want to ensure that your website's fully accessible. Google prioritizes websites that meet accessibility standards because they want to provide a good user experience for all individuals, including those with disabilities. So you'd want to ensure that you're trying to meet all accessibility standards as best as possible. Now, performance, this relates more to, again, technical performance of the website. This is going to relate to layout shifts, how quickly things load, cache items, JavaScript, like all these different items. It's going to be unique to each website, depending on what issues there are. But you'll see here, it's calling out these number of issues. It's also going to say what you could potentially save if you were to fix this, which is helpful. So you know what to prioritize. It's listed them in order of highest impact to lowest impact. So you'll see here like render blocking request. If you wanted to break down and understand how to fix that, they give you some links to a help doc to kind of break it down even further. But and it's also going to call out too what are the items that are slowing the website down and could you address those? So this is also what I do as part of an audit to understand performance is how, from a technical perspective, are we performing? What needs to be addressed? Um, and yeah, where does it fall in the priority list? I'd say a good thing is although performance received a poor ranking, I would say we are still passing core web vitals. So that's a good thing. That's where we'd like to be. Core web vitals, I'd say, is like the first thing that wants to be that you need to have addressed. And then going into these things is more of like further optimizing. Core web vitals, though, are the golden standard for like in the eyes of Google of what you should be passing. And then finally, we'll look at desktop. So you'll see here the core web vitals, they introduce um, INP, which is a different metric that's specifically for desktop. But you'll see here it's going to say if you're passing or failing these items. Unfortunately, it looks like we're failing these items on desktop right now, but we could, if we wanted to, click into here and address and figure out how to fix them. You'll see here that from an SEO perspective, the same, like the elements on the page are not changing. So we're still passing SEO. The items that were called out on mobile, they're still there. That's not changing. The biggest things that you'll see in terms of difference from mobile to desktop is the performance, because that's going to obviously determine if someone's on a mobile phone, if they're on a desktop computer, how quickly is the page loading, how are things being delivered, etc. And it's going to again break down these items that need to be addressed. So when I think about how to conduct an audit and what items to look at, these are the things that I'd address. Going through those items in SEMrush, going through looking at your site health, your backlink profile, your keyword positioning, um, your any sort of toxic links you may have, looking at technical performance. This would all make up a full like 360 audit of your website. But that's really all I had today, just to kind of walk through how I think about doing an audit by utilizing Semrush. So happy to answer any questions that people have or any thoughts people have on how to do this for their own website. If you'd like to chat about doing it for us doing an audit for your website, feel free to book a call and we can talk about it and go through pricing, etc. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful for everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ryan, for the awesome workshop. Does anyone have any questions at all? Feel free to unmute your mic, or you can also drop the question in the chat box.
Yeah, and if there's no questions today, feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, um, and we can go from there and I can answer any questions you have. I do see someone asked, how often should you do an audit? I'd say it depends on the items. So I'd say like the full 360 view that we just did, I'd say maybe do that every 4 to 6 months just to make sure you're keeping a pulse on things. Looking at the more specific criteria we looked at, like for example, keyword positioning, that's something that I would look at more often because you'd want to, if you're creating new content, optimizing pages, you want to be able to I see like if rankings are changing over the 30, 60-day mark. So that's something it kind of just depends on the item. Also to like the technical items, like from we looked at page speed insights. If you're going through and addressing some of those issues, you'd want to ideally be using that and as you're making updates or changes, getting a sense of if it's improving or not. So I'd say if you were to do the full 360, probably about every 4 to 6 months, just to have an understanding of how things are going for those more, depending on what your strategy is and what you're addressing and what you're actively fixing, then looking at those things more often. Um, Another question here is how important is your authority score? So I'd say that, again, as I called out, your authority score is not actually a metric that's being like that we saw in SEMrush for this example. That is not a number that's being pulled directly from Google. It is a estimate based off of criteria that SEMrush has determined affect your authority of your website. That being said, your authority score, to an extent, I say is pretty important. However, caveat there is that if you're a new brand or a new website, you don't have to have a strong authority score to start ranking. So, like, it's not one of those things that if you have a low authority, you can't create content, you can't start ranking for keywords, etc. But however, if you have a stronger authority score, that gives you the ability to go after higher difficulty keywords. So as we saw with like the start out example, we saw that they were ranking for, I believe it was like LGBT business. And they were like the keyword difficulty was 79. So I'd say like the rule of thumb is if you have a lower authority score, don't go for like the whales or like these large keywords that have large volume and high difficulty. You want to be more reasonable and thoughtful and start with keywords that have a lower difficulty that we can start to rank for faster. And then as our domain authority increases, we can start to go after those whales of keywords that are more authoritative, harder to rank for, because we're going to be able to go up against these bigger brands that have a stronger authority than us. So that's kind of how it fits into the picture. Um, how important is is this now that Google's search results generally suck on page one due to paid listings, e-commerce links, etc.? So, um, great question. So when it comes to the first page of Google, um, I'd say it's still highly relevant, highly important. Um, and I think it just depends on your brand. So, for example, if you're an e-commerce brand, um, for example, you are going to want to ensure that, as someone's coming up, like if someone's searching for a product, that your content is ranking organically, like, and that you're showing at the top in those product images. Those are all, unless it's the sponsored section, those are part of organic ranking. Um, when it comes to sponsored links, like or like paid advertising on Google. You probably can speak about this from example, but you just because there's a sponsored post or a sponsored ad doesn't mean that I'm going to click and engage with that content. Truthfully, for myself, I'll usually scroll down and see what the other options are, and because it's going to be more relevant to what I'm ideally searching for. Um, so I'd say that still highly relevant. Yeah, I think that just because there's paid ads on the page doesn't mean people aren't engaging with the other organic listings because the organic listings they're showing are usually going to be more relevant and more in line with what someone's searching for versus sponsored ads. Obviously, it just depends on the ad and what someone's searching for, but as a general statement, that's what I would say. Cool. All great questions. But um but yeah, hopefully everyone found this helpful. Um, and yeah, feel free to reach out and chat if you want to delve deeper into any of this.